So I think where we should start is, I guess a lot of people who haven't been on a cruise, they often think, oh, I'm not going to do that, it's not for them. What do you say to people like that?
Well, I think we think there's a cruise for everybody and every budget. And I think that's the key, is actually finding out what people like as a land holiday. What was their last resort holiday that they liked? And really this is just transposing it onto the sea. We have people that the biggest fear is being seasick. You just take precautions for that. And I'm probably one of those people that I think is in my head sometimes that I might be sick. So I take all the stuff, and touch wood, I've never been sick, and I have done a lot of cruises, and I've never been in really, really rough seas, and I've done a lot of different areas.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think there's some myths about cruising, that people are going to be stuck on this cruise with a lot of people they don't like. But what we find with cruises is that they're really well travelled often. The cruise is closer to home, and 67% of Kiwis actually travel close to home. They can be a little bit different, where they're shorter cruises, you know, maybe to the islands or around Australia, so a little bit different. But, you know, I just think the myths are probably not what the reality is. So.
Because there's so many different types now, right? So, you know, you don't have to be on a giant ship in the middle of the ocean. You can do river cruising and small ship expedition cruising. And what are there any other types that you can think of?
River's big, and even expedition ships don't, you know, some of them are small, but even the small ships don't have to be expedition. You know, we've got coral expeditions, and it's called expeditions, but it's more about what it actually delivers. So that does the Kimberleys and Tasmania, but really intense Tasmania. So you've got you know, naturalists on board, and they tell you a little bit about the flora and fauna that you're going to be
Tasmania
seeing.
Looks stunning.
Yeah.
It looks like New Zealand.
Yeah, it does look like New Zealand, but it's actually, you know, if you're a seafood lover, Tasmania is a dream destination. But they are small ships that can get into places that other ships can't get into. And even the big ships, you know, there's this, I was lucky enough to go on Harmony of the Seas, which is over 5,000 people, a couple of years ago when it launched. And I thought there's going to be all these people. But the reality is there's so many personal spaces and public spaces. You don't feel like you're on a ship with 5,000 or 6,000 people. Yeah. And there's lots to do, lots of things to see. So
that's the second biggest in the world, that ship, isn't it?
It is.
I've been on the biggest Symphony. Yeah. It was a lot of fun.
I mean, did you find the same sort of thing? You don't?
Yeah, there's so much to do, and I guess everyone's kind of spread out doing different things at different times. So
and it's a well-oiled machine. I mean, getting on and off, it's pretty seamless. You know, sometimes you look at it and go, when you see all the bags when everyone's coming on, you're like, whoa. You know, I'm on a ship the size of Tikawiti, you know. They are little towns on hulls. Yeah. That's really what they are. But they have so much, especially when you're doing multi-generational travel, for each member of the family to do. I mean, it'll be an issue trying to catch up if you want to fit everything in, you know.
Yeah.
Well, probably more restaurants than Tikawiti, because apparently there's 22 restaurants on the Symphony of the Seas.
Yeah. I didn't try all of them, but I did my best.
Yeah. And, you know, I think there's just, I think the key, though, is making sure that your first cruise is a good cruise. And that's where we come in. You know, we have some people that say, this is what I want, but I want quiet. And we're like, this is not the ship for you.
Yeah.
You know, because there are different ships and different lines that cater for different needs.
So how do you find the right cruise for the right person? Like what kind of things should people be thinking about if they're thinking about doing a first cruise?
So quite often we'll ask what their last holiday was, and we can get a gauge. You know, if they went to somewhere that didn't have children, why did you go to somewhere that didn't have children? And there, you know, Viking, for example, has no casinos, no kids. So that would be somewhere we would start. Or if they like lots of entertainment, then, you know, smaller ships are not possibly for them, because the entertainment is not that Broadway style shows. But, you know, it's really just finding out what their interests are, because at the end of the day, it's their holiday. We're not going on it. They need to make sure that they're on the best holiday they can. Are they looking for 5-star, 6-star?
And so, are people paying more? That if I know, Stephanie, you've seen, what did you see, Jersey Boys on board a ship?
I did.
Does that cost a lot more if you want a ship that's going to give you a good show like that?
No, absolutely not, because often they're the bigger ships. So, and it depends on the destination. So there's not a set price. You know, some cruise lines will talk about per diem. So how much is it going to cost you per day? And that can be anywhere from sort of $200 a day to 1,000 a day. And that includes your accommodation, your meals, in some cases all your alcohol, your entertainment, your shows, your shore excursions. I mean, it is a really effective way to travel if you're, rather than just looking at the bulk price, sort of look at what the inclusions are, because that really makes a difference.
And so what are some of the extra costs that people would have to face? So there are things like drinks packages and shore excursions. Sometimes they're not included.
Sometimes. So some cruise ships actually include all of that. And I have to say that I have been on those cruise ships, and it's not like everyone is out to get their money's worth of alcohol. It's just not that sort of atmosphere. But it's a nice atmosphere that you can sit there and not go, oh, it's my round. It creates a different sort of feeling. You can sit with
that'd
people.
be fun. That'd be fun when it is your round. You're like, oh, phew, I'm not having
champagne for everyone.
Champagne. Let's do shots, do cocktails.
And has that been a shift, do you think, in recent years, away from the idea of the heavier boozing cruise?
The booze cruise.
The booze cruise.
Look, I'm sure there's some out there, and I have seen them. There's some, especially when you've got Australians and Kiwis, that it's a really relaxed atmosphere and people want to go on, and that's what they're looking for, especially if it's groups. So you do have to be aware that those do happen. But it's still not a bad thing, because it does... people watching's a really good thing on a cruise. You can sit back and you get to see some amazing places. Not all of them. It's a little bit like Napier. You've got to, you might arrive in Napier, but you've got to drive a little bit to get into Napier City or, other places. I mean, I'm doing my first New Zealand cruise in January. And the close to home cruise is actually really cool. I'm going to Milford Sound for the first time.
Wow.
Fingers crossed we can get in there.
Yeah.
That's going to be the big thing. But
I can't believe you haven't done a New Zealand cruise in 38 years of working in travel.
Know, stop it. Well, I mean, I'm doing the long haul stuff while I can because, that's why this one actually is a family cruise. I'm doing it with my sister's family as well, and nieces and a great niece. So it's going to be that multi-generational where we can all do our own thing, and it's a cruise that just appealed. But I have done little sectors in New Zealand, but not a cruise of New Zealand. So that'll be really cool.
Multi-generational, that's something that's really growing, isn't it? So grandparents, parents, kids all going away together.
Yeah.
I think that's good for the parents, because then the grandparents just babysit and the parents can just go off to the bar. Is that how it works?
I think that's what happens, like if you're at a resort. But when you're on a cruise ship, everything's just so taken care of. The kids' clubs, and they don't go, oh, here's a kids' club and they're from 2 to 17. They'll have from 2 to 5, and then some for babies. And so you get that babysitting service on board. Everyone manages to get to the bar except the kids. And I've had clients that have said, it was hard to get the kids out of the kids club to go on shore, so they've just left them there because that's what the kids wanted to do. Oh no, we've got flax making tomorrow, we can't possibly go into Noumea. So I think that's a really good thing, that everyone has their own holiday, all these different generations, and most cruise ships cater for that, which is fabulous. The girls can be down and having a massage in the spa while the guys are in the bar or listening to one of the historians, or the cruise ships do it really well, that they bring people on board and they give you a really, you might not go to a talk on the history of Second World War, but if it's on board and you've got time, you go and you go, that was really fascinating. Or, the areas that you're just about to go to.
Yeah. I went to one once about how they deal with like recycling and waste on the ship. That sounds really boring, but it was fascinating. No,
it is interesting.
You just don't
think about
what they have to do, and all the things that go on behind the scenes. So
Can you remember what they do?
I wouldn't want to know.
It's down to a little pack. I know that it's packed out, and they do galley tours, which I mean, honestly, you could eat your food off the floor. They are so, whether it's just done for everyone else, but it's pristine. And when you think, if they've got 5,000 people and they've got to get meals out, I mean, it's hard if you go to an Auckland restaurant and there's 10 of you to all get your meals together. Yeah. So when there's 5,000 people and 5,000 people are getting fed between 6 and 8 p.m, it's precision timing. It's just a whole factory.
Some of these ships, just looking, and this is the one you went on, so there's 24 whirlpools on the Symphony of the Seas.
I tried all of them.
Surf simulators, the water slides, 7 onboard neighborhoods. There's a central park area with apparently like 21,000 different plants. There's rock climbing. And
zip lining.
Zip lining, robot
Johnny
bartenders.
Oh, the robot bartenders are amazing.
Yes.
It's quite cool
they made me a martini, and it was the strongest martini I've ever had. But it was...
But it's in a plastic cup.
That's true.
That.
No.
But then there's no sort of like flirting with the bartender or...
No, but no tipping either, so that's good.
That's right. Yeah. And, some ships do include the tips and gratuities.
Yeah.
They're not expected. Others, you pay on top. So you do have to sort of sit and work all that out. We help you do that.
Yeah.
And Tempin bowling. What happens if you're on a slight incline, as you're doing the Tempin bowling?
The stabilizers are good. Okay. You can blame that. That's what I'd be doing.
It was a wave.
It was a wave. It was a rogue wave. That's what happened. And they do have dodgems, ice skating rinks. I mean, they are floating cities.
Yeah.
And getting your head around that when you've never been on one, but once you're on it, it just seems normal.
Yeah.
It just seems the thing
It's
to
like
do.
being in a big hotel, isn't it? Like quite often you don't actually realise that you're at sea because there's just so much to do. And
that's right. Yeah. And if you've been to Vegas hotels, some of those have got 2,000 rooms. So that's really the feeling that you get.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, shall we talk about some of the places that you have cruised? And we've got a list that's just insane. Let's start the Viking ship Scandinavia. What was that like?
That was amazing. So we did that out of Bergen, went a little bit up the Norwegian coast and then went inland. I think the highlights were probably St. Petersburg for 2 nights, and you got to get off and see a lot, going into the Hermitage, just seeing those onion domes. I mean, I get excited about anywhere I haven't been before.
Yeah.
And ABBA Museum, that was awesome.
Tell me about
love
that.
it. The ABBA Museum was awesome. If you go to the ABBA Museum, you got to do the hologram.
Yeah.
Because you get to dance with them and sing badly. But it was really cool. And the Vasa Museum, which is about, if somebody said to me, go to the Vasa Museum, it's about a shipwrecked old Viking ship, I'd be like, oh yeah, but it was incredible. And the tip for there is if you go when you first walk in to the right, there's a cinema. Go in and actually watch how they found the Vasa. Well, they didn't find it because it didn't get very far offshore, but how they resurrected it and restored it. And it's still restoring it to this day. So it's a museum restoration getting done in front of you. It's quite incredible.
Yeah.
So
awesome.
Have there been any places you've been that were a bit overrated that you thought that maybe you wouldn't go back to? Or
there was a few places in the Caribbean that, and funnily enough, I'm actually going up there a week on Thursday.
Oh, jealous.
Sucks to be me. And I'm really looking forward to it because it's a different side. So it's the sort of Cozumel, Belize area.
Oh, amazing.
Yeah.
Belize is really interesting. Tiny country, but the second longest barrier reef in the world after Australia.
Okay. Oh, I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah.
Yeah, looking forward to some sunshine and trying out scenic eclipse. Now that's, there's innovations all the time in cruising, and this is like being on someone's private mega yacht. Only takes 228 people.
Oh my goodness.
I just can't wait.
Wow.
It's going to be a helicopter pad, not that I'll be coming in by helicopter, and a submarine.
So this is a brand new ship, right?
This is a brand new ship.
Okay.
Only it had some delays in launching, so it's on its maiden voyage.
Wow.
Yeah.
And you get to be there.
I get to be there. It's just come from Quebec down the coast and arrived in New York today.
Oh, you'll feel like a movie star.
Yeah.
Helen Mirren's the godmother.
Will she be there?
She today christened it. So,
oh, right, okay.
Yeah.
I thought she was going to be on board.
I wish. That'd be nice, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
She looks like a great sort of chick to have a conversation
Yeah.
with. But so there's that experience, and look, there's lots of different. There's nowhere I've gone that I've said I wish I'd never come here, but it's just interesting the hype, and we are lucky because when you do beach holidays, we are lucky in New Zealand. Because we've got great beaches, and Fiji's only a couple of hours away.
Yeah.
So we are pretty lucky where the Americans just fizz over anything in the Caribbean or Caribbean. Yeah. So,
Okay, what about the Seabourn, Bali to Hong Kong?
Oh. Now, Seabourn's one of those ships where, again, small, under 1,000 people. And that was the first one that I'd been on all-inclusive. And I'm not a big drinker, like a couple of cocktails and a Baileys after. But I thought this is going to be interesting because I wanted to see what atmosphere that creates. And it does create that where you interact because I don't know whether it's the booze or whether it's just the type of people, But really interesting people that are on those sort of cruises. And again, really interesting talks. They bring people on to talk about the next destination, and they're usually historians but fascinating. That makes you want to get off at the next stop, where you might have thought, don't know about that, but then you want to get off. So, but yeah, Seabourn's a great cruise line. And
what kind of price point is that? Is that kind of at the higher end, or?
At the higher end, I know that there is a deal at the moment that's a New Zealand ex-Auckland cruise, and it's under 7,000, and it might be for 14 or 15 days.
Wow, and that includes everything when you're on board?
It includes everything.
Yeah.
So, and this is the cruise line where you go to the bar and they go, Cosmo? I haven't been here all night, have I? So, but they just remember who you are,
right.
Or they'd call me Miss Cole, and I say, look, just call me Katrina. And you go to the buffet, which is not like a real buffet because there's lobster and stuff there, and then they come and they take your plate, and it's not overbearing. Like I thought, this is going to be interesting. Am I going to be a little bit, girl from Botany Junction out of my comfort zone? But it's not like that at all. You do get really used to it. And they'll draw you a bath. If you say...
Oh, really?
If you come in and they go, you look a bit tired. Not that I had this, but one of my colleagues did. And they said, why don't I draw you a bath? Draw you a bath. It's so interesting.
So you've even got a bathtub in your cabin?
In your cabin, and they give you a menu and you choose. So it could be, ginger and lavender, and you get, and they draw it, and it's got all these lovely petals, and you get to soak in it.
It's amazing.
With a glass of champagne, no less.
The dream.
Have you guys done anything in India? So that the backwaters of Kerala in India, you can cruise on really small old rice boats, which could be anything from 1 star to 5 star.
Yep.
And it's so beautiful. It's just a side of India which is maybe people don't associate so much, but it's peaceful, it's lush green and palm trees and this network of backwaters. It's
and look,
so
that's
beautiful.
on my list because I went to India for the first time last year. Again, wasn't on my list. Sold it a bit, but wasn't on my list. Absolutely fell in love with it, so much so I'm going to do a escorted trip next year.
Oh, great.
Amazing.
Which part did you go?
Rajasthan, so really just the Delhi, Agra, Jaipur. This time I'm going to do Varanasi because I think that it would be culturally quite different.
Yeah.
And I like sort of to try something a little bit different each time I go. And I don't tend to go back to the same places each time, but India, I just couldn't stop raving about it when I got back. So Kerala would be really interesting to go and have a look at.
Yeah, I think it should be on the list for Kiwis who are like, I'd like to go to India, but I'm a bit intimidated. It's kind of an easy kind of foot in. Speaking of which, back to Southeast Asia, do you find like if people... certainly, I think a lot of people of, say, my parents' generation have been nervous about Southeast Asia. Is a cruise a good introduction, do you think, for them?
Yeah, totally. And I think it's that safety of having, because people go, the food's so different in Asia. Well, that's why I go. But for a lot of people, that can be not why they want to go. So you can go back to the ship and have lunch and then go back out if you want to. I don't tend to. I tend to immerse myself in wherever I go. And I think that's part of why we travel. But you have that safety net there. And if you want to go on the escorted trip, so they'll take you on shore excursions that are just for your cruise ship. So you're with people that you've seen in the restaurants or you've sat and had a drink with, and you can also enjoy it later on that afternoon, sit and, chew the fat about what you experienced, but in a safe environment. And they do have slow-paced walking tours if that's what people want to do. So if you're on a stick or on a walker, you can do that.
Yeah.
And they do have a lot of active trips, so you can kayak. And I think it's really great that they cater for everyone. So it's amazing.
What's the most kind of unusual or outrageous or exciting place that you've been to on a cruise ship?
The most exciting. I mean, everywhere I go, I'm one of those people. I'm just hooked on travel, so I love it. Doesn't matter where it is. But I kayaked, and this isn't not really a cruise, but I kayaked up the Zambezi River.
Oh wow!
We'll include it in it.
Yeah, and
it was on the water.
Yeah, and I think that's what travel does. It can be really life changing. Like when I read the itinerary, I go, "Now I'll just go in the van to the breakfast. I'm not kayaking up the Zambezi River." But when the van got there, it was like, "No, you need to kayak," and I think it does put you, in a situation where you do have to do some things, and you go, "Wow." That's amazing.
And you also, I think one of the great things about travel is if you've got the attitude that you make the most out of any situation. There was a story a couple of years ago of a Kiwi couple who did a mystery escape, and they were so cross that they ended up in Invercargill. And it's like, well, if you didn't want to go certain places, then don't do a mystery escape. But I also wanted to tell them off saying, what if you went there and you're like, right, let's find out what's really good here.
Yeah.
You know, let's find out what's underrated.
Yeah.
And make the most of it. And you can do that anywhere in the world.
I really want to do Alaska for that reason, because I think it would just be, jaw-dropping scenery. And some of the Baltics was like that, where I was with other people and they'd be like, oh, this is similar to Alaska. But, I don't know. Every trip, you bring something back and you learn something from it, and you learn something from the people. I just like talking to even the passengers on board. Like, why did they book that trip? Why? And as soon as they know you from New Zealand, we're coming to New Zealand.
Well, this is a nice segue as far as the people that you meet on board, because themed cruises are a thing. So you must meet some characters if you do, like, say, a comedy cruise.
Yep.
Elvis cruises. Let's talk about, well, we'll get to Elvis. Comedy cruises.
Because you want to do the Elvis cruise, don't you?
So what's the comedy cruise? What's the deal with that?
So they have comedians on board, and some of them are just out of Auckland, 3-nighters. So if you want to try that and try what cruises have got to offer.
And they give you the opportunity to be a stand-up or learn how to be a stand-up comedian, don't they?
Yep, they do. So you can go to classes. Oh, that would be my worst
Imagine
nightmare.
Imagine the dad jokes on there.
Boom. Wah, wah. But I'm doing an 80s cruise with there's 16 of us.
Wow.
And out of Sydney next April. And I'm so looking forward to that, because it's just going to be fun.
And what does that involve? So do they have like 80s bands
They
on?
so do. And DJ, and it'll be all 80s music, so it'll be all old wrinklies like myself that, lived our heyday in the 80s.
And do you only wear 80s? Shoulder pads?
So am. So I've got a bit of an outfit going. But I just think, we're just looking at it as a group, so it's a group of girlfriends and some partners, and we're just looking to have fun, and the common theme is 80s. And it can be for anything. Christmas and New Year cruises are huge. There's a lot of people that don't have family at Christmas and New Year and want to just get away. That's really big. And also to, like, the Australian tennis, Melbourne Cup. They brought a cruise ship down here for the Rugby World Cup, if you remember, when it was in Auckland. But like talking about Rugby World Cup, Japan is just like huge at the moment. Lots of people wanting to cruise around Japan.
Right.
Can't be enough cruise ships in Japan. Because Cuba, I don't know if you know, but Trump just one day said any ship from the US will not be allowed to go into Cuba. 880,000 passengers affected. Whoa. So, and I think that's why I'm doing the trip next week, because that trip was actually going to Cuba. A lot of people would have cancelled off that because Cuba would have been why they were going.
Yeah.
So, but Japan's huge for cruises. And you get to see, when you circumnavigate places, you get to see a lot of places again, unpacking once. So
yeah,
it's the beauty of it.
Do you like massive port destinations, or kind of the smaller, a bit off the beaten track places more, or is?
I like a bit of both, but there are some, like Myanmar have got some river cruises. Now they go into some little places, and I think that would be really interesting, and those river cruises are definitely on my list.
I've done one of those.
Have you?
Yeah, into Mandalay.
Yeah. So you would have found that, different, you see sort of the real life rather than city life, and I do like that.
And it's interesting that some of the appeal is not the more striking attraction. It is just that you're sitting on top deck and you're watching life go by. You're seeing mothers wash clothes in the river, and just the beauty of the mountains just slowly kind of meandering by you.
Yeah.
It's quite hypnotic.
Yeah. I'm doing a Penant cruise too, and I'm doing some. I've got 3 cruises booked because I love cruising, but also that there've been some amazing deals. And Penant's a little ship, French, under 200 people, where it's got a underwater bar.
Oh, what?
And so you sit in this bar underneath the sea. So I went on board it in Auckland just to have a walk around. So the advantage of being in travel is we get to have a walk around. But you don't get the atmosphere because usually people are off doing shore excursions to Rotorua and stuff like that. But this underwater bar looks awesome. So there's a small group of us, of friends, that are doing that in March. It's going to Norfolk, of all places, and back. And I'm just so looking forward to that. I don't care if it doesn't even stop anywhere. I'm just, it'll be just good to feel it.
What do you know about the Elvis one then? The Elvis-themed cruise?
Yeah, well, look, I can tell you that it's going to be great for people watching, because there'll be a lot of, I would say, Elvis impersonators on there.
Oh, my goodness, yeah.
And, the music, you just immerse yourself in Elvis or the 80s or whatever the cruise theme is.
Yeah.
And I think that's quite cool. Look, it's kitsch, but you just got to take
it's
it
fun.
and go.
The guest house in Graceland in Memphis, you get to choose which decade of Elvis you want playing in your room. So do you want 50s young rock and roll Elvis?
Fat Elvis.
Do you want 60s comeback Elvis? Or do you want more kind of caricature jumpsuit Elvis in the 70s? I was 60s Elvis.
Yeah, and I think most of us would be. And I think that's what the 80s is going to be about, just having a bit of fun. It's not serious, and it's only for 4 nights, so it's good, and a great price point. So I've got probably half of our group have never been on a cruise before, so this is going to be a good taster for them. So we're going to make the most of it and just have fun, and I think that's what it's all about. Even when you're on a 6-star ship, like a Regent or Seabourn, the people, everyone's the same. They just want to get out of travel what they can, and it's not about necessarily the surroundings, but they like 1,000 thread count sheets and stuff like that, but and also just having a little bit of something that you don't have at home. It's not everyday feeling, so I like that factor about it.
You mentioned deals. So what's a good way to get a great deal on a cruise? Like, do you have to book really far in advance, or can you get good last minute deals?
You can get last minute deals if you're prepared to wait and take the chance. But because cruising's so big and they can't build the cruise ships quick enough, I mean, we've got cruises booked now for 2021.
Wow.
So, if you want a specific cabin type or a cruise, you really have to book this far out. Generally, you won't get it any cheaper. And, of course, because it's cruise month, there is deals to be had for everywhere and every cruise ship. So I think, if you want to ensure that you get on that particular cruise, you've got to book as soon as you can.
Especially for places like Antarctica or the really kind of limited edition itineraries. I guess you would need to really book in advance for those.
And they're only letting so many people on the ice in the Antarctic. And one of the girls in our office, Lorraine, she went on a big ship down to the Antarctic, and she highly recommends the small ships, because you get right in there into the little areas and you get off onto the ice. Don't touch the penguins, but they're more interested in who you are than you are, with them. So, and I think it's all about actually immersing yourself and experiencing stuff rather than from a deck chair all the time and just looking down and, that's Antarctic, So, and all these expedition ships that are coming in, you can do 6-star down to basically just about working it, So,
let's have a 6-star.
Something for everyone. Let's do the 6-star.
We'll start there.
We'll start there.
And even the Antarctic, you don't have to necessarily do that Drake Passage. There are ships that do it from that.
Right. That's pretty much all we've got time for. Should we just have a little look ahead to what's happening within the cruise industry, crystal ball gazing a little bit?
What do you think are some kind of upcoming hot destinations? You mentioned Japan, but are there others?
Japan is really big, and Scandinavia. There's a lot of cruise lines that are doing Scandinavia, up the Norwegian coast. Iceland is really, really popular.
I really want to go there.
Let's do that.
Okay, let's go together.
Let's go. Iceland, Greenland, all around that area. The Arctic Circle is huge, as well as the Antarctic. People sort of forget about the Arctic, and going into places like Churchill and seeing the polar bears and I think all of that area is really big. Fall, a lot of people like the fall colours of the east coast of the States, going down from Quebec, Montreal down to New York. But you've got to book that so far in advance because people book it year out and year in. So, and New Zealand is a really big destination. If you want to know what cruise ships are in, go onto the Ports of Auckland website, and they've got a cruise ship calendar. I mean, I'm a bit of a cruise geek, so if there are ships that I haven't seen before, we'll go down with a group of friends, watch from a restaurant, and get a bit of a feel for those cruise ships. When people say you're from New Zealand, they want to cruise New Zealand and they want to know all about it. So, I'm looking forward to the New Zealand.
Are you on Instagram? Are you all these travels? Can we see you?
Yep. So we've got a House Travel Botany page and a House Travel page. So Perfect. We've got Facebook, and I'm going to be doing a day-by-day blow of my scenic eclipse, which I still can't believe I'm going on. in 10 days' time, and I'm really, really looking forward to that. In fact, when this airs, I'll be on it.
Well, thank you for coming by. Speaking of Instagram, do follow Stephanie as well.
Home Stephanie.
Yep, and meet Tim Roxborogh with No You. Thank you so much for coming on our podcast.
Thank you, Katrina.
Thank you, and congratulations. I hear you're sort of getting up there #1 travel podcast. And
in New Zealand,
In New Zealand?
Yes.
In New Zealand?
Yes.
To start?
Yeah.
Long may it continue.
Yeah,
Yes.
absolutely. Thanks for the inspiration.